The torch was gone by morning. In its place, sitting on our side of the river, was a boat nobody had rowed there. They didn't sneak in. They didn't need to. Whoever they were, they walked straight up to the front gate, and every guard who saw them coming simply let them pass without understanding why. Something about them made the whole room quieter than it should have been. Not fear exactly, more like the way you go quiet in front of someone reading your name off an old important document. I am called the Reckoner, they said. I do not conquer. I do not threaten. I simply confirm what has already been agreed and collect what is owed. Baba Fasoranti moved to stand near us before anyone told him to. I understood, watching him do it, exactly how seriously he took this particular threat. 17 years ago, the Reckoner said, a queen made a private arrangement with a river that did not have the authority to make it alone. She paid a debt that was never fully hers to pay. She gave her life, the king said, his voice shaking with old grief and fresh anger. What further payment could anyone possibly demand? A life given freely settles a debt of blood, the Reckoner said calmly. It does not settle a debt of memory. Your river remembers a queen who loved her daughters enough to disappear for them. That memory itself has value. And value, once created, belongs to the ledger. Say plainly what you want, Isioma said. Everyone in this story who speaks in riddles has eventually turned out to be lying about something. Very well, they said. Plainly, then. The memory your mother created lives inside the two of you now, joined in that pendant. The ledger does not require your death. It requires the memory. Return to where such things belong beneath the water, where it can no longer be spent by anyone. You want to erase her, I said slowly. Not just what she did, all of it, every memory anyone has of her ever existing. I want balance restored, the Reckoner corrected gently. Kingdoms are permitted memories of their queens. Rivers are not permitted to keep the debts they were never authorized to accept in the first place. This is not cruelty. This is simply how the ledger has always been kept. And if we refuse, Dayo demanded, his voice tight with barely restrained fury. Then I record a refusal, the Reckoner said simply, and the ledger sends collectors who are considerably less polite than I have been. You have 3 days to decide. That is customary. I am, if nothing else, always fair about deadlines. They left the way they arrived, without urgency, without fear, like a debt collector who has done this exact work 1,000 times before in 1,000 other kingdoms and never once needed to raise their voice. Nobody spoke for a long moment. I think we were all trying to understand how something so calm could feel more dangerous than every soldier the Duke had brought to our border combined. 3 days to decide whether to hand over the last piece of my mother anyone would ever be allowed to remember. I understood, standing there, that this was never going to be a fight we could win with swords or rivers or even an army standing down out of guilt. This was going to be a fight about what we were willing to lose to keep her. 3 days isn't very long to decide how much of your mother you're willing to fight for. So we didn't spend it deciding. We spent it searching for a way to not have to choose at all. Day one, we searched for a loophole. Baba Fasoranti had lived through more strange things than anyone else in that palace, and even he admitted he had never once heard of anyone successfully refusing the ledger. I noticed Mama Odara hadn't said a single word all evening. In 17 years of knowing her, I had never once seen her choose silence over an opinion. That frightened me more than the deadline did. You know something, I said. It wasn't an accusation. By that point in my life, I had learned Mama Odara's silences were rarely empty. I have met a reckoner before, she admitted quietly. Once, a very long time before you were born. The room went completely silent. Even Baba Fasoranti stopped searching his books. Before I was ever anyone's grandmother, she said, I made a small bargain of my own with that same river. Nothing as grand as a queen's sacrifice, something quieter, something I have never told a living soul. My own daughter was dying, she said. The river offered to save her, in exchange for one small thing, my ability to ever fully trust anyone again. I said yes without hesitation. I would say yes again today. That daughter grew up, married a good man, and years later, brought me a granddaughter to raise while she traveled for trade. She never returned from that journey. I raised you instead, Tulani. You were never a stranger the river handed me. You were the granddaughter I already loved, arriving exactly when I needed something left to protect. I had spent this entire story learning new versions of who I was. This one landed differently. This one meant Mama Odara had never simply found me. She had already loved someone connected to me, long before the river ever asked anything of either of us. The reckoner I met explained something the current one conveniently left out, she said. The ledger cannot simply take a memory that is actively being protected by someone still willing to fight for it. That is the one rule even they cannot bend. That's why they don't simply take it by force, Baba Fasoranti said, excitement breaking through his exhaustion for the first time. They need it surrendered willingly or successfully defended. There has to be a formal challenge. Then we don't hand anything over, Isioma said. We make them fight for it. What kind of challenge are we talking about? A memory trial, he read aloud. The ledger sends a keeper to test whether the memory in question still holds enough truth and love to remain real. If those who carry it can prove it, in the keeper's presence, the debt of memory is considered paid honestly instead of collected. It will not be simple, she warned. The trial does not ask you to remember her fondly. It asks you to prove that love, tested honestly, survives. That is a considerably harder thing to prove than anyone expects. We didn't wait for the third day. We went to the river ourselves on the morning of the second and asked for the trial instead of the surrender. The reckoner appeared exactly the way they left, calmly, without ceremony, as though they had simply been waiting nearby the entire time. A trial, the reckoner repeated slowly, as if tasting an unfamiliar word. It has been a very long time since anyone loved a memory enough to ask for one. Very well. Let us see if 17 years of love can survive being tested honestly. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who loves stories that refuse to follow the expected path. Tell me in the comments, if you were Tolani or Isioma, would you surrender the pendant to save the kingdom, or would you risk everything to protect your mother's memory? There are no easy answers, and I'd genuinely love to know what you would choose. If you're enjoying The Unchosen One, please like this episode, share your thoughts below, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Moonlight Tales by Joy drops brand new stories and episodes every Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Your likes, comments, and shares help these stories reach more people, and I read every single comment. I can't wait to hear your thoughts.